Think about it this way. One day you go out to dinner with your friends. Someone at the table jumps into the topic and says, "This year again, I maxed out my retirement account contribution. It's been 12 years now." Someone else talks about the rental apartment they just moved into. Another person talks about the investments they've made. Everyone shares something from their life. Meanwhile, you sit there quietly, thinking about the investments and savings you're going to make someday, lost in your own thoughts. Then someone else brings up another topic. You give them your attention, reach for your glass and take a sip of your drink, and the conversation flows on. Then dinner ends. After having some fun, everyone heads home. You take a shower and get into bed. You lie there silently, staring at the ceiling. What was said at dinner keeps replaying in your mind. It seems like everyone is rich except you. You're the only poor one. You ask yourself, where did I go wrong? Or why did nobody teach me how to invest? Or am I too late to buy a house? These kinds of questions cause deep discomfort in your mind, and you become uneasy. Maybe you even lose sleep over it. My friend, first you need to know this. Half the people at that table are full of it. The guy with the brand new car bought it on credit. The guy who mentioned his rental apartment. That place has been sitting empty for months. The woman who maxed out her retirement account is hiding a $30,000 debt from her husband. As for the rest, they believe in these things simply because, like you, they're naive too. You feel inadequate, but you're actually not. The only thing you fail to grasp is that people lie. Actually, that feeling of inadequacy isn't your fault because people's perception of success is stuck back in 1985. Back then, buying a house was far easier than today. A single income could comfortably support a family of 4 without financial strain. That's why, because we measure success against the standards of decades past, we end up feeling inadequate. This happens everywhere in the world. I've lived in places like New York, Dubai, and Tokyo, and I've seen the same problems everywhere. One person talks about the villa they bought. Another talks about how huge their portfolio is. But people are the same everywhere. When I first started my factory, I used to blame myself too, because my debts never seemed to end. I kept searching for where I'd gone wrong, but I couldn't find it. It turned out I hadn't made a mistake at all. My perspective was simply different. Today, I'm going to put some data on the table. This might put your mind at ease, or it might unsettle you further. If it puts you at ease, you're on the right track. If it unsettles you, don't worry. No matter where you turn things around, it's a win. Today, we'll talk about the financial thresholds for people around age 40. First, I want to address a classic lie that's on everyone's lips. There's a line I've heard from financial advisors. By your 40s, you should have savings equal to 3 times your annual salary. At first, this sounds perfectly reasonable, but there's a completely different reality behind it. I had to learn this the hard way back when I first started my factory, because real world performance and the math on paper don't move in parallel. Research from the U.S. Federal Reserve on consumer finances reveals the truth. People between the ages of 35 and 44 have retirement savings of roughly $45,000. Pay attention here. This fact is the opposite of what financial advisors recommend. Most American savings amount to just a few months' salary, yet financial advisors tell you that you need savings equal to at least 3 times your annual salary. There's a massive gap between the two. So whether you have $10,000, $30,000, or $5,000 saved, you're actually in a good position right now. You just need to keep up that same consistency because you are not a failure. All those perceptions that make you feel like one are a trap set by the capitalist system because they want you to spend money on their products or their advisory services. So you need to tune out these perceptions. Your purpose in life shouldn't be to outdo others. It should be to live in peace. Now let's look at achievable milestones for your 40s, adapted to the economic realities of 2025. The first milestone is retirement savings. My recommendation is to aim for savings between 1 and 2 times your annual salary. If you earn $70,000 a year, I suggest targeting somewhere between $70,000 and $140,000. If you can hit this target during your peak earning years, you'll be very comfortable in retirement. If you have $120,000 invested at age 40, even without adding another cent, at an 8% return, that amount will grow to nearly $800,000 by age 65. Remember, the period when people need money most is retirement, because when you're young, you can earn money doing almost any kind of work, but that's not possible in old age. That's why it's crucial to start investing in your 40s. Now, I want to talk to you about the importance of an emergency fund. You should already have enough in your saving account to cover you for a minimum of 6 months. For the average American, that's roughly $20,000. Though, of course, you should determine this amount yourself, since I can't know what kind of life you live. The purpose of this money is to be your emergency exit in situations like an unexpected car accident or a health issue. Third, I want to touch on the matter of debt. You need to get out of debt as soon as possible. Installment purchases, your mortgage, whatever comes to mind, get rid of them as quickly as you can, because debt is like a black hole that consumes your wealth, and as long as you don't free yourself from it, you're doomed to keep losing. The fourth point, whatever area of life we're talking about, we should always be improving ourselves in the areas relevant to us and never stand still. When it comes to money, the peak period for this is roughly between ages 40 and 50. In this stretch before retirement, we should get our finances as organized as possible and live a comfortable retirement. Every year, your income should grow by a minimum of 30% adjusted for inflation. More is even better. We can't know what surprises life has in store for us, so we need money set aside to get us through hard times, whatever they may be. The fifth point is about sources. If you're keeping all your cash in a single place, I want to point out that you're making a mistake. My advice is to spread your principal across various sources, some into foreign currency, some into real estate, some into stocks, some into precious metals. Because when all your principal sits in one place, your risk of losing it increases. Maybe the dollar loses value against inflation. Maybe real estate prices crash. Maybe millions vanish from the stock market overnight. But when you've spread that money across various sources, you minimize that risk. Remember, we don't know what life will throw at us. Tomorrow could be our happiest day or our darkest one. So prepare yourself for everything. Now, take a piece of paper and a pen. Based on everything I've explained so far, write down, one by one, the mistakes you've made and promise yourself you won't make them again, so that these mistakes help you produce better work going forward, and so that you can pass on both your mistakes and your quality work to the generations that come after you, so they can keep their own mistakes to a minimum. This is essential for humanity's progress. Second point, by your 40s, having experienced almost everything, you're now able to make far more accurate decisions about what to buy and what not to buy. You've reached the maturity to understand whether that latest model laptop will actually be useful to you, or to grasp the consequences of buying an average home cheaply versus renting a luxury one. Third point, your 40s are your prime, because it's the last stretch before retirement, and you've also gotten past the recklessness that comes with youth. You have an established routine, a defined source of income, and you're not under the same stress as a young person starting a business from scratch. At the same time, thanks to the experience that comes with the years, your financial literacy has reached a certain level. You know, in your own way, what to invest in and what to avoid. Maybe you've seen crises. Maybe you've watched thousands of dollars vanish from the stock market. There's no more room for excuses. Based on the experience I've gained, I can confidently say that taking losses, whether in starting a business, making money, or pursuing any path to success, actually gives you incredibly valuable lessons. When I turned 26, I opened my textile factory. I thought I knew finance well enough until I went through a currency crisis at 30. That day I lost $200,000. I can honestly say that it was that loss which truly taught me how to manage money. That's why I remain open to new ideas at all times, even when there's a risk of loss, because that's the rule of life. You can't know, you can't learn without trying. But I should mention that recovering after mistakes like this is quite difficult. It takes serious mental strength and patience. You have no money, you're in debt, and there's no one to help you. People you thought were your friends stop noticing you once you've fallen. Perhaps you'll need to throw yourself completely into your work to get through it, and this process can take years. A friend of mine went through exactly this after going bankrupt. I remember it well. He spent a full 10 years paying off debt, working day and night without pause, and using what he earned to pay down what he owed. Keep in mind, you may need to go through processes just as hard as this. One of the simplest yet most effective ways to stop such situations is to cut out unnecessary spending. For example, avoid getting caught up in thoughts like, oh, this is on sale in 6 installments, or, oh, this one's on 3 installments in every store you walk into. And don't put yourself in a tough spot because of it. If you love traveling, going to the movies or the theater, limit these to once or twice a month. And I think the most important thing is this. The moment you and your spouse receive your salaries each month, write down that month's mandatory expenses in a notebook. Make yourselves an income and expense ledger. If you're renting, write down the rent, the installments, the bills, the grocery costs, item by item. If there's money left over after the mandatory expenses, either deposit it into a bank account or put it into an investment like gold or foreign currency. If you cut your spending to a minimum and avoid unnecessary purchases, the money you manage to set aside will start to build up. And as it does, it will motivate you. After a while, you can use the money you've set aside as a down payment on a house or car and pay off the rest in installments. As another step, my advice is to work on paying down debt. I use the snowball method for this myself, and I recommend it to you too. First, list all your debts from smallest to largest. You could compare this method to climbing a staircase. You start by paying off your smallest debts first, and once those are gone, you move on to the bigger ones in sequence. This way, you feel psychologically at ease while also freeing yourself from debt. As a third option, I recommend building an emergency fund. We don't know what surprises life will throw at us. We could get into a car accident out of nowhere and be bedridden for months, or we could fall into serious financial hardship during a possible economic crisis. The emergency fund exists to protect you from situations like these. I recommend that the money saved in your emergency fund be enough to cover your basic needs for a minimum of 6 months. For example, if your monthly expenses are $4,000, the minimum amount your fund should hold is $24,000. Also, open this fund in a separate account to prevent yourself from giving in to potential spending impulses. As a fourth step, I want to talk about the individual retirement system and additional contribution limits. In the US, employees age 50 and over can make catch-up contributions of up to $8,000 to their 401k accounts. For IRA accounts, this catch-up contribution can go up to $1,100. These accounts also offer various tax advantages. The money in them is exempt from taxable income and granted to you in full. This isn't just advantageous for you either. If you're a salaried employee, it also benefits your employer. Employers can deduct the contributions they pay on behalf of their employees from taxes as long as it doesn't exceed 15% of the wages earned at the time of payment or the annual amount of minimum wage. Fifth point, ways to increase income. No matter how much you save at maximum levels, if your income stays flat, it's unfortunately very hard to accomplish much, especially if you're a salaried worker and it's not possible to live that way for the rest of your life and still end up with above average financial means, because wealthy people are almost entirely either entrepreneurs with employees or artists or people working in similarly structured professions. If you're in trade, you'll invest in your business, grow your revenue, hire more staff, sell more. If you're an artist, you'll put out higher quality work, reach a wider audience, and satisfy people's tastes with what you create. If you're a footballer, you'll train harder and develop yourself, so your market value rises and you end up playing for better clubs, indirectly increasing your income. I recommend applying these examples to your own line of work. Whatever you do, be the best at it, because saving is necessary, but it's not sufficient. You can't get far by saving alone. Now, I want to tell you how investing entered my own life. It was exactly after I went through the currency crisis and lost $200,000 that I became interested in this field. I was 30 at the time. These days, I max out my 401k every year. Between my 401k and my Roth IRA, I have $250,000 set aside for my retirement plan, roughly $10,000 extra in my HSA, and I transfer any surplus funds into another brokerage account. I also make sure not to neglect investing in various ETFs. As long as you're patient, you'll clearly see your money grow. Of course, if the amount's small, it doesn't grow by much, but as the amount increases, that rate of growth increases too. I consider myself successful when it comes to finance, and I attribute that success to my patience and discipline, not to being especially clever or lucky. Now, I want to talk to you about something we call financial paralysis. When people want to start a business, they just keep thinking it over. All sorts of mental calculations run through their heads, and fears like, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? Gnaw at their minds. This is one of the most dangerous afflictions in the world of finance, because you keep losing as long as you don't take action. Reading article after article, doing research about a venture without ever taking action. Believe me, that's not healthy. The only thing you need to do is take action, because that's the only way you'll ever find out whether you'll succeed or not. And even if you do succeed, you'll keep making mistakes, big or small, for the rest of your life. That's simply human nature. Even today, companies worth billions of dollars still make mistakes. One phone company has battery problems, another car manufacturer has brake problems. And these are companies with decades of experience. You will make mistakes too. I've made plenty of mistakes in the past, and I still do. So what I want from you is this. If you already have the capital and a business idea you want to pursue, take action today. Don't put it off. And don't limit this way of thinking to business alone. It applies to everything in your life. Maybe you're overweight and want to start exercising, but you keep putting it off. Don't start tomorrow. Start today. Pack your gym bag right now, sign up at the nearest gym, and begin. Free yourself from the disease of procrastination and take action. I'd also like to say a few words about career milestones. I recommend becoming knowledgeable in more than one field in your life. I'm the owner of a textile factory, and I consider myself knowledgeable in areas like textiles, the stock market, and real estate, knowledgeable enough at least to make money from them. Second point, in the field where you're an expert, be the best. If you're an accountant, be among the best in your city, even your country. If you're a CNC operator, be the best. If you're a footballer, be the best. Always keep your eyes on the top and fight with everything you have to climb there. Networking matters just as much as expertise because the company you're a director at can go under or you can get laid off. But the quality of the people around you speeds up the process of finding a new job. Meet regularly with your colleagues, chat with them, join various activities, earn their goodwill. This way, the people around you end up promoting you by word of mouth. Another point, you should have more than one source of income. The market is always in flux and the balance of supply and demand keeps shifting. This is essential for keeping your income level stable or pushing it upward. Each of these income streams carries its own level of risk and return potential. Real estate, for instance, is one of the most favored models for rental income, while the stock market helps you generate passive income through dividend payments. With the advance of technology, certain professions have emerged as well. Starting a blog, creating a course, or earning royalty income are some examples. These methods require knowledge and intense effort rather than capital. Many people think money is needed most in youth, but this is a huge misconception. Money is needed most in old age because in your youth, you're strong, sharp, full of energy, mentally sound, and you have the strength to fight for things. There's a lot you can do to earn money, but in old age, this reverses. You no longer have the strength or the power. Companies won't hire you. You're mentally worn out, and your only source of livelihood is what you did in the past. That's why we need to be more careful about our finances after our 40s. I see people who give into complacency, saying our time is passing anyway, while spending all their money on luxury, and it saddens me to see them in this situation, spending thousands of dollars on a car they don't need purely for the sake of luxury, and then getting stuck in a bind during an emergency. My friends, don't be like these people. Now, I want to tell you the story of someone who looks wealthy from the outside. Alex has been saving regularly for 12 years and has $350,000 in savings, but he also has $600,000 in mortgage debt. He also has 2 children, and next year they're starting university. So there are those expenses to account for too. Then there's a woman with a rental apartment who, once you factor in mortgage, taxes, insurance, and maintenance costs, is actually losing close to $500 a month. Yet in her own mind, she thinks she's making money. Another person inherited $200,000 from their family, and instead of putting the whole sum into investments, spent it on luxury. The rest of their life has been full of hardship. When you look at this picture from a distance, you feel inadequate. You compare yourself to these people. Yet, in reality, their situation is worse than yours because they failed to make the most of the opportunities that came their way. At least you never had that opportunity to begin with, which is why you've gone through financial hardship. So my advice to you is, don't be fooled by other people's lives from a distance and feel bad about it. The only person you should be competing with is the best version of yourself. In conclusion, don't put things off with excuses like, I'm too young or I'm too old to invest now. Nothing in life is ever too late or too early. Some become wealthy at 20, some at 50. Some start university at 20, others at 35. As long as you chase your dreams, that's what matters. If you have dreams of earning serious money, take action today. Don't put it off with excuses like age. Lastly, I can say this. The more rationally a person makes decisions in life, the more peaceful a life they live. I believe we need to rein in our impulses as much as we can because the 5 years you spend living rationally might buy you 20 years of freedom. Sometimes a 25-year-old accomplishes what a 60-year-old never managed to. Sometimes someone starting from zero at 40 can surpass someone who's had 10 years of experience by age 30. In this life, you are exactly as valuable as the rationality of your decisions. Everything else is one big black hole. Looking back 20 years from now, you'll either see a mountain of regret or you'll say, I'm so glad I did this, and live a happy retirement. Perhaps spending joyful moments with your grandchildren at your summer house while everything you did in the past plays before your eyes like a film reel. Take care of yourself. See you next time. The things discussed in this video are purely my personal experiences and do not constitute investment advice. Don't forget to consult a professional when making financial decisions.